Welcome to Verbal Mirrors Reflecting Understanding podcast, where the power of words becomes a bridge between worlds. In this podcast, we embark on a dynamic exploration of the human experience, weaving a tapestry of diverse voices, stories, and perspectives. I am your host, Lavinia Richards. Join us on a journey that transcends boundaries, fostering connection, empathy, and a deeper understanding of the rich mosaic that defines us all. Get ready to reflect, resonate, and embark on a transformative odyssey through the art of conversation. Well, welcome everyone to Verbal Mirrors Reflecting Understanding. I am your host, Lavinia Richards, and I just want to say welcome. I am getting ready to bring up this amazing young lady by the name of Melissa Shaw, right? And before I do, though, I want to introduce you to what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about building resilience in youth, coping mechanisms, and resources. Right. And so let me bring up this beautiful powerhouse, Miss Melissa Shaw. Come on up, beautiful.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest on Verbal Mirrors this morning. It is an honor. I've already spoken with you before. I met you, and I love your spirit. I love your energy, and I knew I had to have you on here. So, Melissa, before we get started, though, I want you to go ahead and let the audience know a little bit about you, a little bit about your background.
Hey, so I'm from here in Indianapolis, grew up off 46 in Arlington, and graduated from Tech. So Tech Titan. So, yeah, a little bit about me. So, it's funny how, I just be prepared because I'm just going to say all kinds of stuff. And I'll probably be all over the place.
Be all over the place, as long as it's real.
I've never been interviewed. So it's like, I don't know what is about me. Like, you get so used to always put it on other people when it's like your turn. You're like, oh, what is my story? I have one, but anyway, sorry. I just kind of came to my mind, like, about me and my background. So, because when you say background, I immediately go to like work. Isn't that crazy? Like, we go to like our professional background and not like our personal background, because we really don't talk about our personal side with very many people. So I'll just go back to, where I grew up, 46 in Arlington. I grew up in a family where we really just looked at the person. We didn't see color. And I know sometimes when people say not seeing color, they can take that a certain way. When I say not see color, I don't mean that I don't see what color you are. It means that I see past that. I see you as a person. I see you in who you are. Your color and where you grew up doesn't define who you are. It's just how you create yourself. And so just that's how I've always been. And so I'll tell you a funny story. This kind of made me really see the world the way I do. And I don't even know if I shared this with you. So because growing up in a family where we really didn't talk about the colors, in kindergarten, I went to a school, came home, and asked my mother what color I was, because we never talked about it. What do you mean? And so I was upset because some little boy said I was white. And I said, I am not white. And I pulled out the crayon box and I pulled out the peach crayon and I said, this is what I color with. I don't pick the white. I don't know. I think I've always been just very matter of fact. And I was like, you're not black. Pulled out the brown crayon. You use the brown one. You don't use the black one. And so I feel it's a funny story when I think about it. But as I gotten older, I really realized that kind of really shaped how I saw the world.
Right.
And how I moved and how I responded and connected with people. Like when I see people, I don't see like that's irrelevant to me. Who are you as a person and what do you bring? What are your experiences? And so I love telling that story. So even today, like when people say, oh, you white? I said, no, I'm not. I am peach. And my daughter would get so mad at me. I know. And my daughter would be like, "Oh my God, Mom, quit saying it." I'm like, I know people are like, whatever, but even to the point to where when I would go and fill out paperwork, I would want to create my own box.
For the peach.
I would put other.
Yes, because I'm peach, I'm not any of those colors.
Because when I think of being white, white has its own perception.
Right.
And I'm not that. I'm nothing like what that perception is. I am my own person. I create my own experiences by the relationships that I have. That is kind of what's molded me. You know, we are a product of our environment. But as we get older, our environment allows us to kind of, I think we talked, I don't know if you read the book, The Four Agreements.
Yes, we talked
But
about
with
that.
that
One of my
book,
favorites.
right, so yeah, so that, now that I'm older and I've read the book, I realize, I had some good I was formed in a good way, but then also there was other stuff, just within the world. And, because I am a product of my environment, I grew up where it was mostly blacks. I remember being on the school bus, I'm the only white person. And I'm good. Like it never was odd to me. It was just normal.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? This is normal. Like, these are my people. Like, I don't understand why they're, and so again, that's how I perceive the world. And even as I'm older, my relationships that I'm building are reflecting that more so now than I thought. And I say all of that just to lead up to now that I have my podcast, and now I'm interacting with young ones. Me being able to grow up that way and have those experiences allows me to meet them on levels that most people can't meet them on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
it's
like
just
that.
been,
And you know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry. Go ahead, girl. I would just keep
No,
chit chatting. So go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all good. No, but I was gonna just kind of piggyback off of what you said because that's what I felt from you. Right. I told you I'm big on energy. I just am. I don't believe in putting myself in places and spaces around people that I don't feel comfortable around. And I don't care what color you are. I wasn't taught color, but I knew I was black. You know what I mean? So
Right.
when I heard you tell me that, I thought that was absolutely like powerful, right? But funny too. I love the story. But I didn't feel separated from you. I felt inclusive. I felt like you received me. And I didn't feel like, when you said you have your podcast show, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit later, but it wasn't one of those, I'm black and, oh, she has a podcast. No, I won't. Right. You instantly called me. I don't even think it was a week after we met. Right. I don't think it was a couple of days. And that grabbed me. Right. Because that's what it's all about. But then when we sat down and we had lunch and got to really converse and know each other, right? And you told me that story amongst other things, I knew I wanted you on my show as well because I loved your story, but I also love what you stood for, right? So we are going to dive into it. The topic again is building resilience in youth, coping mechanisms and resources. So the first question that I definitely want to ask is, what are some common challenges that youth face today, and how can building resilience help them navigate these challenges?
Personal challenges or challenges that I see within youth?
Challenges within youth. Yep. So what are the common challenges that you're seeing in the youth since you're dealing with them that they're facing today? And how can building the resilience help them navigate these challenges?
Just now that because I want to say probably within the last 6 months, most of my guests have been youth. And so really being able to sit and have a conversation with them, and what they struggle with. They struggle with being seen, allowing them to kind of be who they are and not be critical of them, not judge them, not, we grew up, I may not feel the way you feel. Like, I may not rock that way, but it doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. And I always tell them, I say, as long as you're not killing nobody and doing, I say hard drugs because, of the CBD. So I always make that as a joke. But, as long as you're not doing that, I have no right to say what you're doing is not okay. And so being able to hear their stories, and they want to be inclusive. They want to be included. They want to be connected. They want a space to where they feel safe, where they can nurture themselves and nurture their generation, but still have that safety net of the older ones kind of creating that framework, but then also turn around and be like, okay, so what do you want to do? Let me support you, not you support me, not me create a program and I need you to conform to that because this is what I think is best for you. So the challenges are them finding spaces to where they can get that true mentorship, but it's beyond being mentored. It's being a leader. I had read John C. Maxwell is an amazing book, and I think it was like 21 Irrefutable Laws of a Leader.
Irrefutable
And
Laws
one of those
leadership.
Yes. So one of the laws, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like, when you lead somebody, you're leading them to greatness. You're leading them to take over whatever you're doing. And I don't see that happening in a lot of the different organizations. It's okay, this is my organization. I'm creating this space for you. But what I want to create is I want to lead you to be your best. I want to lead you to take over what we're trying to do. And there's not enough spaces that are providing that. So I hope that answered your question, kind of with what I see, just in my experiences with young people and hearing their story and just not being judgmental. Like the one gentleman, he came to our first meeting with a ski mask on. And it's so funny because it didn't even dawn on me that he did that until later on. He told me he did that on purpose. And I'm like, why? He said, because I needed to see what your reaction would be. So already in these young people's minds, they already know that they're going to be judged. And so for whatever reason, he needed to test me to say, okay, what are you? And that was his test. Of all things, he felt he needed to wear a ski mask to see what my reaction was. And he said, you gave me no reaction. He said, it was like I didn't even have it on. You continue to talk to me. He said, I sat there with it on the whole time. I said, did you? I didn't even realize it. I forgot that. Like, I didn't even pay attention to it to where it was even a description that I would describe. Like, if I would describe that, I would not say this man sat here with a ski mask on. I didn't even remember that. Because I was able to see him as a person and see his story and just see what he wants to accomplish and feel it. Not just superficial, but really be like, okay, how can I really help this young man? I can't help you by how I think you need to go. I need to help you based on where you're at. And it's like meeting them where they're at. And he was, as we was talking, he was like, I don't mean to be mean. He said, but I never thought that I would be sitting here with a 46-year-old white woman. I said, well, we'll talk about that later. I always stop people, be like, okay, I'm gonna let you slide on this one, but we'll circle back to that.
We're gonna do this business real quick.
He's like, I never thought I would be having a conversation and feel the way I feel and feel seen by you and feel like I could rock with you. And that meant so much to me because I was seen by some young man. He saw me. There was no judgment on his end either, where he saw my pure intention, me really wanting to help. And so that's where that bridging of those generational gaps come in when it comes to my nonprofit, because I'm actually seeing firsthand in real life experience that being played out. Like most of the young, and they've been men. Like there's 4 men. They're all 24, 25 that I really rock with that are being included into my nonprofit, but I'm allowing them to be like, okay, what do y'all need? Like, how can I support you? And just to being, I don't know, just seeing it, it's just this past 6 months, I'll say this past year has really taken on the shape that it's supposed to. I want to create my nonprofit for the young people. I want y'all to run it. And
Absolutely.
the young gentleman,
and I'm sorry, but I want to go back because I think what was very, 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 very important is what you said, being seen. So many people walk around feeling unseen, like they don't matter, right? And so if we can start with the youth, then we won't have so many, I believe, this is just my opinion, of course, so many depressed adults. Because now we're
Yeah.
giving them the resources that you want to put in place. We're creating those spaces, as you stated, right? And then the mentorship. But I also love what you said. It's not just my program. This is our program. I created this for you guys. Come in. What do you need? How can I help you to evolve, to lead you to greatness? Not my vision for you, but help you achieve your vision for yourself with the correct leadership and direction, right? So I
Yeah,
think, and
absolutely.
again, yeah, that's what I felt from you. And I really meant that inclusiveness. There was no I'm Black, you're white. There was like, hey, let's network because it's needed. Right. And I love
Mm-hmm.
what you said about that. Before I go further though, what is the name of your organization?
Project Our Generation.
Okay. And go ahead and let people know how they can get in touch with you there.
So my website is projectourgeneration.org. And you can go on there and see what I'm doing. You can get connected with my podcast from there, and kind of see. I have a photo gallery, so you can kind of see, what I'm doing, who I'm with. And how I came up with that name was from my dad. So my dad passed away 6 years ago, and him and my mom had been married for over 50 years, and she really struggled because he did everything for her. That generation, that's what that mentality was. And it wasn't in a dogmatic way. It was just he loved taking care of my mom, and she did what. I'm a feminist, but I'm not. I believe in we all have our roles, we all have our lanes, and we're good at that. And so why am I about to try to go out here and pick a car up or do a tire? I'm not doing that. I'm calling my dad, I'm calling my brother. I'm seeing some man on the street. I'm gonna need you to come over here and help me. I'm gonna pretend like I'm about to go. I'm not gonna do it. But I say that so, just helping my mom, I was like, what if I came up with a center where young and older ones can come together and get that value? The younger ones can help the older ones in instances like where my mom was at, being able to give her that guidance on things that she never really learned. And then her stories and her, wisdom in certain things can talk. And my dad, when it came, this is crazy how things happen, because when we have thoughts in our mind, most of the time they will not manifest till later, because I feel
True.
like the universe almost kind of says, okay, this is what you want to do, but let's see how bad do you want to do it. Like, is your life going to be aligned in order to hit that? Are you going to become the person that can really sustain what that looks like? Because we may want to be
Exactly.
a millionaire, but if you're bad with money, you may get millions, but you might blow it in a year. So
Exactly.
you have to become the person in order. And I felt like during that time, so I didn't do my nonprofit until 5 years later. I had the name, I had the concept, but I didn't know what that looked like. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
my dad helped the young man that lived across the street how to tie his tie. Small as
Wow.
that action was, it was impactful. And that gentleman still cuts my hair to this day. He's my barber.
Connections. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
still have that
Relationship.
connection, that relationship based on, him living across the street. And so I feel like that's why it's kind of full circle. Why now I thought I wanted my nonprofit a certain way, but now it's starting to take on what it's supposed to be, which is to really, really pour into these young people. Now granted, I'll help everybody, but my market, my passion is these young people because of how they respond to me. Like, I've had last week I had a meeting. Oh, there was a young girl, Regina Warren, her assistant, was there, and she's 19. She met me at P30 last week. We literally talked for over 2 hours. many older ones can say that they can have a conversation with a young person for 2 hours and have a meaningful conversation? This wasn't about some BS. This was an actual
Right.
conversation of her talking about, her struggles and what she wants to do, and me able to giving her encouragement from my own experiences. Her even saying stuff that I learned from that made me think about, my own life. It's just amazing, and I'm just here for the ride, really. I'm just like, I don't even know where I'm about to go, but let's go. I'm strapped
Let's
in
go.
and I'm
I
ready.
feel that. Listen. So let me ask you this. So can you share some effective coping mechanisms that young people can use to manage stress and adversity?
I would say the creative. I'm learning that a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of young ones, they go to the creative side, and that's how they cope. Like when I had did a went and spoke at George Washington High School. And it's funny, they put me in a room. It was a career day. And I'm thinking I'm going to talk to seniors. And I go into this room, and you know how kids are. They laying on the floor, the lights are out. They had a substitute. So they was not paying any attention to me. Like, who is this again? Who is this white woman coming in here, like talking to us, like whatever. But it's so I had to kind of again meet them where they are. Like, all right, what y'all doing? What you over there watching? I have a YouTube channel. They love watching YouTube. So now they wanted to know, oh, well, what's your YouTube channel? What's your podcast? And talking to them about their stories. And I ended up interviewing 3 gentlemen. And one of the guys asked, he says he's a rapper. And I'm like, okay, you know what? What made you want to get into that? He said, that's how I deal with what I go through. That's my outlet. And so we see a lot of these young people going to music and becoming rappers, and because that is a way of them to express. And so we may feel that and this just hit me right now, like we may feel that their lyrics are so volatile or so they're not positive, because that's not where they're at. It is a reflection
That's
of their
powerful.
reality. And
Yeah.
that just
Now that
literally
is
that just
powerful.
hit me.
But it's so real. Like saying that because
It
people
is.
don't understand, and I'm the creative space, whether, and let's be real, like whether it's that female that's going to the stripper pole because she needs to feel sexy, or right, or that gentleman going to rapping, or that female and or male going to comedy, because a lot of comedians are broken, right? And so they
Mhm.
find that, I love what you said about that, because they find that creative space as an outlet. Most comedians are talking about their pain in their comedy, right? So
Yeah,
just like rappers, like just what you said, if you're not in that space, what else can you talk about outside of what your environment is and what you know? That was
exactly.
powerful.
It's a form of expression. And one of the other things he asked me, and he's a freshman in high school, he said, do I have to go to college to be rich? My immediate reaction was absolutely not. And he was like, oh, but college schools conform. And even when we like, you go to college. And I'm like, okay, no, there's such a whole nother life out here. Even when it comes to trade, like you can create your own business, your passion. What do you want to do? Like, that's not even an option. That's not even talked about. So here I go with my mind, because I'm always thinking of stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, they need an entrepreneur program. I need to create something, but I want further, like, okay, I want to create something with what I have, like the young 4 gentlemen that are like, they're close, like they're my family. Like I will stand in front of them, I will go to bat for them, I will take down Indiana for them. Like, that's how I rock with them. And I want to say that because this is
Right.
not like one of them had some issues, and the first thing that he said to his girlfriend was, call Melissa. So he even knows,
Period.
he feels that if he's in a situation, he knows, okay, I know exactly who to call. Now I'm not always tease me, like I come in like I'm about to go, like I'm what did they call me, like Cochran or like the lawyer, like whatever. I mean, I do have inside me Olivia Pope, but we talked about that. Like, don't make me bring out my Olivia Pope, because I will. Let me get my white suit on.
Let's go. Let's go. It's handled. It's handled.
To say, like, just being around these young people and just me being able to see the world the way I do, very few people see it the way I do. And it allows me to be in settings that not a lot of people can get into, like going into George Washington High School. That's not a great school. I didn't even know that till afterwards. But I didn't even care. Like, oh, okay. Like, oh, you went there? Yeah, I did. I was in a room with people that
Because
could
you
care
have a
less what I
calling,
had.
like, not only that, but it's your passion. Like, you are hype about this, and I love it. That's what I love. Like, when you have a passion for it, you go hard for it, right? I mean, there's just something, I don't care how you feel in the day, there's something that pushes you when you really care. And you can tell that you really care about the youth and really giving them a sense of direction and a safe space to be in. And I really, really love that. So no, I mean, I can just really tell. And I like to see people, because I always believe, do what you love and the money will follow. Right? Because if I wake up every day doing something I hate, then I'm not going to get up with the same passion and vigor, right? But if I get up knowing that I'm helping somebody, blessing somebody, encouraging somebody, uplifting somebody, directing somebody, giving somebody information that they could use, whatever that is, then I'm in my element. I'm able to help, and I can see, and that gives me reason to keep pushing, because when those people come back to you, I'm sure, like you said, it made you feel good to be able to sit, because they call us, oh, I'm 51, right? So they like, hey, this old lady, but like you can talk to a teenager, I can talk to a 7-year-old, I can talk to a 71-year-old, and I can talk to someone my age. Right. So being able to be multifaceted, to hold those conversations and be able to not only give something, but take away something from those ages and those people. Right.
And I think that's huge, because everybody wants to know that they provided value. And so we don't give our young ones the opportunity to provide value to us. And so by these conversations that I have and just kind of letting them navigate, and I tell them all the time, like, I learn from you. Like, my one friend, she's 26, and we met a couple years ago, and she literally got me making all my content. I would not be making content like I was if it wasn't for her. And I tell her that all the time. Like, you have brought so much value to my life. You created a safe space for me to be creative in me putting myself out there, because of sometimes the lack of confidence. These young people, they are more confident at this age than we was.
Yes.
And so being around that energy is like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm about to go out here and set my tripod up. I don't care who's looking at me. I'm about to go do walking videos and taking my pictures, and then
That's
I posted, and she's the first one, like, oh my God, I love that outfit. Look at you. And, we're just giving me praise. And it's like, we don't think that young people want to be able to do that. That is another way of them being seen. Yes, them being seen by, like, dang, like, she's 46 years old, but she really values my opinion. Like, that's huge.
Yeah. That's important. I mean, it's major. Now, I want to ask you this though. Talking about the youth, let's bring the parents into it, right? So, how do you feel the parents and educators as well support the development of resilience in youth? How can the parents and educators support?
It's hard. My daughter's 19, and it's not been easy. It's been rough. There's been times when I'm like, all right, I don't want to be a mother no more. Like, I can't do this. And I was talking with, like, my daughter, she struggled with mental health. I want to say it probably showed itself around middle school. And I had left her dad when she was 5, and she was close with him. Like, really close. And so that really affected her. And I was affected because I didn't have any support. My family didn't support me. So I was kind of navigating by myself. And when she was in high school, you know, our kids, I gave my daughter the ability to have a voice. And sometimes I wish I would have chose violence because her voice, honey child, be ready to take me out, because I'm like, oh my God, if I would have said that, my mother would have dragged me up and down the street.
Right.
But
Right.
her being expressive was almost triggering to me, and I didn't realize how triggering it was because I didn't have that ability to be what I allowed her to have. And so I really feel us as parents, we expect so much out of these young people, but we are still navigating it ourselves. We don't know. You know, she told me that it bothered her that she felt that I didn't take her mental health serious. And that hurt my feelings. Like, what? I'm your mother. I love you. Of course I did. She felt that I wasn't there for her emotionally. And so I got to thinking, like, why wasn't I? But how could I be? I wasn't there for myself emotionally. And sometimes when we are in our own space, we cannot be there for them the way we need to be. And that's where that village comes in. That's why it's important for us to have other people. You know, us as mothers, we tend to try to do everything ourselves. But we're giving our kids a disservice, because if we emotionally, mentally cannot handle what they're going through, they need to have somebody else they can go to.
That's real. And that's the realest answer. I really respect that answer. That was so real and so dope, because somebody else might have, and I'm not judging anybody, but somebody would have said, well, what we need to do. But first recognizing that we can't help them until we help ourselves. Right. I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I know that I'm a lot of the ways that I am because of my upbringing. Right. My parents having spaces and places in their lives being broken. And so being a product of a broken environment, I'm broken. And then becoming a mother, being broken, raising children, trying to figure it out. So I think, and I would love to, I mean, you know, I think what you're saying is the first thing that we can do is recognize that we have to be accessible, available, and healed ourselves before we can help them. To a degree, we have to recognize where we're at to be able to help them. And if we can't, get them a resource, that village, so that they can get the help that they need. Yeah. And the teachers too,
You know,
because
like
the educators.
Yeah,
Because the educators are parents too. I was just going to say.
You put 25 kids in a room, and we don't know what these kids are dealing with at home. And so they're coming to school and they're reacting the way they react. But I have to teach y'all, so I need y'all to shut up, sit down, because I have a job to do. And so it doesn't allow them to be like, all right, you know what, y'all, we're not going to do no work today. We about to have a powwow, like, because the energy's off in this room, so we about to fix that. They're not given that opportunity to do that, because they have to make sure that they're covering this. They have tests they have to take. They have to pass these tests. And all of that is BS, because none of that is going to help you in the real world.
It's not. It's not. That's 100% real.
They're not teaching them how to handle conflict, how to handle when things don't go their way. You know, this is how you process it. That right there, that thinking ability, that cognitive decision making and process, we don't teach them that. Hell, we wouldn't even taught that. You know, I grew up in a family where I never ever saw my parents argue. I think that was a good thing. Until now that I'm older, and I'm like, that's why I don't know how to deal with conflict. That's why I don't like to have those difficult conversations, because I don't know how to have it.
That's powerful. That is so powerful. And that's the thing. And I don't think we realize that, you know, when we're in the educational system or as parents, because we're the first educators that our children see. What are we showing them? What are we modeling? We can only model what we know until, right? what is it, Miguel Ruiz, because I want to, since I'm quoting his book, but the 4 agreements, until you break those agreements, right? Until you decide, okay, that's what Big Mama did. That's what great grandma did. That's what my dad and now I didn't like that growing up. Let me break those agreements, right? Right. So it's hard to navigate through that or help somebody else. I have to go back to that again, because it is what you said. Recognize where you are before you go helping anybody else, before you're giving any advice. Heal you, deal with the issues that you need to deal with, and recognize when you can't help someone. Don't try to be superhero. I can help you, because a lot of times we damage them more than helping them, right? So let me ask you
And my
this.
daughter,
So
with my
how can
I just want to say
no, go
this
ahead.
one
I
thing
want you
with
to
my
say it. Go
daughter.
ahead.
With,
Yeah.
and with her voice, like, she will call me out, and I would be so irritated. But she showed me that I thought I was doing certain ways, but I wasn't, because I was still kind of processing how I was. And so again, we go back to our kids even can teach us lessons. And I remember one time we was in the car and she did something and I went off. And then as they're crying and we're talking, and I said, you know what? And I said, I'm sorry. I had to apologize. I said, because what I just realized, what you just did, my trigger had nothing to do with you. Actions
You
triggered
recognize
something in
me.
me. And my response had nothing to do with what you did. Now, am I
That's good.
perfect? Do I always recognize that? I don't. But to have a child that is like, I see you, you have issues, you make me mad, we be ready to fight in the streets, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. She's like, I'm not leaving, so I don't know what we about to do, but we about to work this out. And I want to retreat. I don't want to do that. Like, get out of my room. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And she's like, nope. And I just but that's her. That she is teaching me and forcing me to be in those uncomfortable situations. And she's my daughter.
Yeah, they can. And what we said, they can teach us something just like we can teach them something. Them being seen. You're seeing her and you're allowing her, not because of her age, because a 3-year-old can teach you something. And I like what you said, because I know my youngest daughter, she just turned 32 on the 5th. So I remember when she was younger, she was an adult, but she was in her young adulthood. And we were going back and forth, we're on the phone, and because I'm all about respect. I will try to, girl. So I'm just like, and we were talking, and I said, when I was young and when I was this, and then, and when I stopped talking, she said, but I'm not you. And when I tell you that shut my whole mouth and shut me down, because it made me realize, wow, she's her own individual. This is her story. This is her walk. And I don't have a right to now put all of my stuff on her because she's triggered something in me. Right. And she taught me something very valuable that day. It doesn't matter that I was her mom. It mattered that she had a voice. And she needed me to understand that irregardless of to what my experience was, she wasn't me. Let me have my experience, Mom, and hear me in this moment. How are we going to deal with what I'm going through? I'm not you. Right. So I love what you said, because she did. She taught me something very valuable. And I carry that weight, because now I do listen. But what you said, I grew up in don't ask no questions. Right. I grew up in what goes on in this house stays in this house. Right. I grew up, don't go and telling our business. You be quiet. I grew up in a stay out of grown folks' business. You don't talk to grown folks, right? And so when you're doing all of this, I'm coming at her in that same manner until she taught me something and made me break that agreement. So I really like that you brought that up, because kids can definitely teach you something. Now, I want to ask you this. What role does mindset play in building resilience? And how can we foster a growth mindset in youth?
That is huge. I always say our minds are a beautiful place, but it can be a very dark place. And I've experienced several dark places within my mind. But because I read or I listen to audios or I listen to podcasts and ones that are inspiring and helping me to, because what we say to ourselves about ourselves is how we see ourselves. And there's a podcast that it's called the Self-Talk Experience. And he's actually a personal mentor of mine. And he talks so much about how what we say to ourselves is huge, but what we put into our minds, so we have to feed our minds other things so that they can tap into it versus tapping into the old stuff. Like you mentioned earlier, breaking those old agreements, we need to create our own agreements based on us and what we think and how we perceive the world based on our own experiences. So just really encouraging ones to read. And it's funny because one of the gentlemen, like one of the three guys, they have an organization called Stack Over Shine, and they all read, but one of them is an avid reader, and he talks about how important it is. And so being able to give those young ones those platforms that are already doing it encourages other young ones to realize, like, I do need to feed my mind and my soul. And it is in reading. Okay, you don't want to read? All right, listen to an audiobook. Give them the options. You don't have to just sit there and open a book and read, but there are other ways. But just really helping them to understand what we feed our mind is so huge, because during that time when I was in a dark place, because I had did so much personal development, I didn't go as dark as I could have went. Because I was able to tap into that stuff that I had already read. Because my mind had already been shifting. And there's another gentleman within my organization. He says, once our mind expands, can't go back.
That's true.
We have to constantly be feeding. You're never going to say, all right, well, I know everything. That's it. But they need to see us doing it. They need to see us having those conversations or referring to books. There's a young gentleman, his name is Damon Hicks. He's wrote 3 books. He's 25 years old. There are young people out here doing these things, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody is for bringing it to a forefront. I'm getting ready to work on a program with Stack Over Shine, and they asked me to be a part of it. It's called Poetic Justice. And what it is you take an excerpt of a poem or a movie or a music, and you talk about how it makes you feel. You talk about and that right there is helping the mindset, because now you're having conversations, you're addressing things. So like when you hear this lyric, what is it saying to you?
And
Our young people are wanting to have these spaces, but they are not. They don't have the ability to provide, to get those spaces. They don't have the money. They don't have the resources. They don't have the connections to be able to say, hey, I need to pull this together.
With that, and that's why I love what you're doing, because and the mental health is so, I don't think people understand it, and I'm so glad that it's starting to come to the forefront more, because it was such a taboo back in the day. Nobody wanted to be labeled as crazy, with air quotes, right? Oh girl, she goes to a psychologist, or she goes to a psychiatrist, or no, I'm not taking my baby to it. No, they want to label my baby. Right? So then those mental issues aren't dealt with. And so now it's the anxieties and the ADHDs and the depressions and so on, all the labels. But it's from ignoring that this child or that person or that teen needed some mental health right, needed some mental health guidance or mental health where they went to some sort of doctor or psychiatrist, and it gets pushed to the side. But not only that, from seeing the signs, but then, like you said, let's leave that alone and talk about education. Leaders are readers, right? So when you read, you start to absorb that knowledge. You fill your head up with things that are empowering, and you're able. People think that money is wealth. Knowledge is wealth, because with all the knowledge that I have, I can always create more money, right? I can always create a job. I can always create a business as long as I have the knowledge. And so I don't think that people understand how important it is to be educated, to listen to those podcasts, to listen to, like you said, everybody doesn't like to read. And unfortunately, some people, some youth and adults can't read, but that doesn't mean that you can't get the knowledge. It's still available, it's still accessible. And so mental health plays a great role and is very pivotal in everything that we do from youth on, though. I think that's what we need to understand too. We think that we're supposed to start dealing with mental health as an adult, but like you said, when you saw whatever was going on with your daughter, you made sure as her mom, okay, this isn't right, this is happening, I can't handle this, so let me get her some assistance, let me get her some help, let's address this. And that's what more of us need to do, and not just put it on the back burner. Ain't nothing wrong with her, she just acting out, right? Because that's what we'll do, and we'll ignore those signs and symptoms, and then later on you've got a child that's on 3-4 different medications because we never dealt with the mental health of the child. And so I love what you said, just reading and finding those resources to get educated on is very important. Now, I do want to ask you, how do you feel like we can encourage open communication about mental health, since I just talked about that, and emotional well-being among youth?
Just by having those conversations, listening to them, letting them kind of navigate and really hearing their story. Like I interviewed, so Stack Over Shine, I've interviewed them like collectively 4 times. But within the last week, I interviewed all of them individually because, okay, you all collectively come together, but who are you as a person? Who are you? And so one of the gentlemen, Keanu, he just wrote a memoir and he's 25. And his experiences that he talked about, the mental health of being in the dark place, being able to talk about that. So it's important for us to provide these young ones with peer-to-peer experiences and giving them a space. And he said, I've never been that vulnerable. I was able to capture that. He did that with me because I provided a space where he felt safe and seen, that he could just, like, there was going to be no, like, my face is not going to give you a reaction with whatever you say. I'm going to be intently like, oh my God. Like, I'm going to be empathetic and compassionate.
Yeah.
And just hearing what he went through and him being able to talk about it, that is huge. Really, is all they need. That's all they need. They don't need all this extra stuff.
You're right.
They just need spaces. They just need people that are willing to just listen and be like, damn, you went through that?
And you survived?
Because
right? Sometimes people just need to know you survived.
Because, like, when your mom was on drugs, when your house was raided by the FBI, when your closest friend was killed in front of you, and you're like, you're such a baby and you dealt with that, don't minimize what they dealt with, because we're grown people and we haven't experienced that much trauma. And be like, damn, you are still out here doing it.
Period. And not only that, we're grown and we're still not recovered from the things that happened to us as children.
Right.
And we telling them to deal with it, right? And we still battling from when our mamas or daddies did whatever to us, right? And that is just so crazy. And I love what you said, because I had I'll just call her my play niece. But she was going through something, and like you say, I love, I don't know, I just have an open heart. I love talking, I love empowering. Let's just say that. I love letting somebody, I don't care if you're male, female, white, black, Puerto Rican, I don't care about that. If I can encourage you and empower you, that's where I'm at with it, right? So she had called me, and she was in college, and she called me and she thanked me after she graduated. And I was like, for what? She said, for being there for me. She said, all the times I needed to talk to you. She said, you know, you had no idea that I was contemplating suicide. She was like, and it was because of
Wow.
our conversations that I did not do it. So you have no idea what you're doing for someone when you're just simply listening, right? Creating that space for her to be heard, not judging, because I don't have a right to, because I am not perfect, but just letting her know, like you said, that space, here I am. I'm just going to listen. And then wherever I can find that space to give you some encouragement and some guidance, you know, but I had no idea she was even contemplating that. And those are the things that we don't see, because the mind is the one thing nobody can see. It's the most valuable asset that we have, but we let everybody control it, piss in it, and all the other things in it, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think that is important with that, you know, with what you said, just creating that space and being there. Just being there. You don't know. And I always say people don't know how much people don't care about how much you know, shall I say, until they know how much you care. You can tell me all day, you know, oh, you're doing an amazing job, Lavinia, you're great. But then if I say, hey, Melissa, can you come on my show? No, I'm busy. Hey, can you come on this week? No, I'm busy. Well, I mean, am I really that great? Right? You know, I mean, like, just
Right.
really being there to encourage me, to uplift me, to push me, and to be that support system. The youth need that, because we have to understand, as we get old, they're coming behind us to take care of us, to be our political leaders, to be our educators, our doctors, right? Our lawyers. And so what are we instilling in them? What support, what knowledge, what education, what are we resources like what you have are we offering when we see that it's not available, right? So I have one more question, and we're going to get ready to wrap it up. No, go ahead. Did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say, like so many, I go back to, we create programs, but we create programs based on our own experiences, what we think they need. And I feel like that's a huge disconnect. And while we may not be reaching the young people the way we want to, because we're trying to reach them the way we think they need to be reached because of our own experiences. Experiences are completely different. Like your daughter said, they are not us. Live in a completely different world than we grew up in. And we don't recognize, we don't address that. We don't, man, if we had social media back then, we'd be a hot damn mess.
We would. But you know what kills me though? Just a little joke to that. I think our kids think we social media. Mine do. Mom, I'm like, we go to the library, right? Get encyclopedias, look up stuff for papers, and literally write papers. You asking me all these questions when you can just say, hey, Google, right? It's like, no, you have all these resources, you know, use it. But they still come to us. But it shows me, though, that they still want to be led, that they still want that knowledge. And I think that's powerful. We think they don't. And instead of sending them to social media where they can find out any and everything, let's get them to some people that have the experience like yourself, but that is willing to step outside of yourself and step into their world to help them. Right? Yeah, I think that's good. So the last question, what are some, no, go ahead. It's a delay, so I'm sorry if I feel like I'm interrupting you, but go ahead, answer. No, go ahead, because I want you to respond. Okay, so I was just going to say, that's okay. The final question I want to ask are, what are some potential long-term benefits of developing resilience in adolescence?
Just kind of what you said earlier, like they're the leaders of the world. And so by giving them those things, we're ensuring that they're going to be that they'll be capable, creating that resilience. But again, I go back to creating the resilience is meeting them where they are. I'm going to keep saying that. Like, we have to meet these young people where they are and not conform them like that that's why we continue to meet with resistance, because they don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to be told what to do. We don't want I need to have that inclusivity. Like, okay, what do you need? Like, if you tell me what to do,
Make
I'm
me feel
probably going to
valued.
do the opposite.
Yeah, because you don't tell me. Look, I think Jill Scott said, she said, if you can tell me what to do, then you can tell me what to do. But if you can't tell me what to do, then you can't tell me what to do. Okay. Right? So exactly. I mean, and that is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And just leading by example. What are you modeling? We want youth to,
being able to
do as I say.
And I would say, even expressing ours, like, my mother never talked about her struggles. She never talked about what she dealt with. And so, in my mind, you can't relate to me because I don't really know you. We don't allow these young people in because we feel like, well, I don't, and my mother would make the comment, I don't want you to look bad on me. I'm like, I wouldn't. I would consider you a person. But that generation, even though we have the generation of you're seen and not heard and don't get in grown folks' business, that generation, that was compounded even more. They couldn't talk about the stuff that they dealt with. And so when they have their own families, I'm definitely not telling my children that I was molested or that I did this or that maybe I had 2 boyfriends at the same time because she's going to think I'm a hoe or a slut. I don't care, like, because I probably had 2 boyfriends in high school too. Like, let's be real. They don't want to talk about those things. So being able to be real, like now with my daughter, she has experienced certain things in her relationships. I'm like, oh my God, like, I never even talked to you about them, but our lives are parallel. We're going through the exact same thing that I went through with your dad in certain instances. And when I'm telling her this, and I told her this, she was like, oh my God, like, it was just like a aha moment. Like, we're so much alike. Yes, you are your own person, but what we pass on even within our genes, because our experiences are like, we what's the word? We hold those within our body, within our blood, within our every being.
Within ourselves, our DNA.
And so as mothers, as we carry our children, we don't realize what we're passing on to them without even saying a word.
Okay. Yeah, and that is true. We don't. Even with our energy and our vibration. I remember growing up, I was so miserable. Not growing up, but as a teen mother, being a mother at 13, I had a lot of growing up to do, needless to say, right? And as I became, in my early 20s or whatever, my kids thought I was so evil, right? And or like I had an attitude, my daughters, and they were just like, oh, mom. And so I saw my daughters reflecting that attitude. I'm like, oh, I gotta change that. Is this what they say? But I was angry because I was overworked and I'm working every day and I got 2 kids and I'm a single mother and I'm a divorcee and so on. And the list goes on and on and on. Me, but not really paying attention to what I'm doing to their mental health, right? But being, taking responsibility and accountability to say, okay, I'm raising them into women. I need to change this, changing the trajectory of our lives, of their lives, so that they don't turn out as the angry Black woman, right? And that's hard to do. So that mental, like you said, it goes a long way. DNA, attitude, all of that, environment, everything. And so I really think that that's a very good point. I have so enjoyed you. I just want to ask that before we end, is there anything that you want the listeners to know before we hop off? And please make sure you give any information? I know you gave it earlier, but that was earlier. Any information about how they can reach you and about your non-for-profit? Because I want people to have that resource, because you are awesome and I love what you're doing in our community.
I appreciate that. You can follow me on Facebook at Melissa Shaw. On Instagram, I'm at Our Generation 19. On my YouTube channel, where you can see all of my podcasts that I record, is Our Generation with Melissa Shaw. And then my website is projectourgeneration.org. So if you can't remember anything else I said, projectourgeneration.org will take you to all of those different things that I mentioned. And I'm looking for donations, sponsorships, sponsor these young ones. As I have these conversations with them, I really uncover and learn what it is that they need. And I want to be able to fill those needs by the support of the community. I'm providing a platform. I'm making the connections. I need, and we didn't talk about the experience, but I was able to pay for a gentleman to be at a gala, a men's event, where they honored men. The She event puts this on every year, Katina, Washington, and it was a dope experience. I had never been, and I made sure that Chase came to that because I knew he needed to be in that room. So I bought a table, made sure he was there, and from that, he was able to make a connection with a gentleman, his name is Wiz, that told him he can put his clothes in his store because he has a clothing line. Because he took all of the pain that he went through from his story and created this clothing line called Trench Hearted, because in his mind, you can come from the trenches and still be something. So being able to give him that platform, and now he's in 2 stores, and now he's doing amazing. And in turn, he wanted to do an intimate vendor event. So it's like all of that, I want to be able to provide them with resources and abilities where there is no excuse. There is no reason why we can't do this. Whether that is partnering with people that provide a space, whether it's partnering with people that says, hey, we'll provide food, we'll provide entertainment. Like, I want to do events this year for free where it gives these young ones the space to do what they need to do. And I've already done 2 events. Partnering with P30, them allowing me to have the event there. Bringing people in that and highlighting their own, that when it comes to collaboration is really about allowing and providing a space where each person can be highlighted. Collaboration is, I know exactly when I go into this event, I know who has a part in it, and I'm going to know what you do because you're going to be highlighted. It's not collaboration where we come together and we provide a space and everybody come. No, it's more to it than that. I need them to know this is what you do. I need them to know this is what you do. And for me, I'm going to stand back and watch like a proud mama. Like, these are my baby cubs. And look at y'all. Look at what y'all did.
Amazing. But
I need
right?
And I need that support. I need spaces. I want to be able to provide ones with legal protection. Like last month, I was able to help 4 young people get legal protection to help them with their business. I pay for their first month legal services with Legal Shield. I need donations so that I can continue to do that, because what that is doing is that is empowering them. That is not saying, hey, you need this resource. That's saying, hey, you need the resource. I'm going to provide you with the first month for free because I'm going to pay for it, because I need you to experience what that looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to have you on today. I thank you for. No, that's not no soapbox. This has been an honor. This is what this platform is for. I appreciate you. So listen, when I saw you and I met you, I'm like, I need you on here. Like, I love everything that you stand for. I love how you're helping our community. And I wanted people to know. So forget that soapbox stuff. We need this in our communities. And guess what? When people hear this across the world, they'll know when they come to Indy, we have things that are available for our youth, right? That we have people in Indy that care, that are really building these programs to help so that we can build a better world, right? So I thank you for all that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Miss Melissa Shaw. Absolutely amazing young woman, as you can hear. She gave all of her information. So please, please, please support donations. We need to support our youth. We need to help in any aspect that we can. So make sure that you reach out to her on all of her platforms, donate, support, refer people. If you can't help, maybe you know someone that can, but it takes a village, like she said. And so we're getting ready to close out. I just want you to know you can follow Verbal Mirrors Reflecting Understanding podcast on podcasters.spotify.com, on music.amazon.com, on boomplay.com. We are on podchaser.com, player.fm, and we are on iheart.com as well as podbean.com. Alyssa, I want you to stay on. We're going to go ahead and close out. I want to thank you all for tuning in, for listening in to this amazing information. I hope you enjoyed us, and we look forward to seeing you on next week. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
As we wrap up another episode of Verbal Mirrors Reflecting Understanding, we encourage you to carry the reflection sparked here into your daily interactions. Let the echoes of diverse perspective guide your journey towards greater empathy and connection. Thank you for being a part of our dialogue. Until next time, may your mirrors of understanding continue to reflect a world filled with compassion and unity.